Hello, welcome to the Wheelbarrow Series class on growing sunflowers in Kentucky. The sunflower family is Asteraceae slash Compositae, which is the largest plant family in the world. It contains about 1,550 genera and about 24,000 species. The family includes annuals, perennials, succulents, vines, shrubs, and trees, believe it or not. Its commonly grown members include daisies, marigolds, zinnias, gazanias, mums, dandelions, thistles, ragweed, cosmos, and dahlias. That little weed that grows in your lawns that people love to hate, dandelions, it's kind of hard to believe that that's in the same family as the sunflower. An interesting thing about sunflowers is they have heliotropism, which means that their flowers turn towards the sun. So if you've noticed that your sunflowers in bloom, do notice that in the mornings the bloom will face east and it will gradually turn towards the west as the sun goes in that direction. So what makes them sunflowers is the flower shape. You can see that they have a flat receptacle there, and we have the corolla of disc flowers. Those each little flower, the whole inside of that is little individual flowers on that head. And then we have what we call the ray flowers, which actually is the petals on the outside. That is kind of like the thing that's bringing in the pollinators for show, to bring the pollinators in. This is a cheesy picture, but this is to give you an idea of a couple different plants in the sunflower family. You can see fleabane flower there next to a penny, which is fairly tiny, and then you can see a large sunflower head there next to the lady. That shows you how big they can get, anywhere from a foot to sometimes even 2 foot across. So we're going to talk about the culture of what sunflowers like and need to grow. If you've grown these before, they're fairly easy plant family to grow. There's so many wild varieties of these. Even the hybrids are pretty well conditioned to most of our growing condition. The family is so large, members live in all corners of the world in all climates and all soil conditions. So we can find a sunflower to meet just about any area that you might have. We're going to concentrate on sunflowers for Kentucky, which all of these prefer rich, well-drained soil and full sun. Sunflowers are, however, somewhat drought tolerant, especially after they've got established. They can be quite drought tolerant even as annuals. So they'll start to lose leaves off the bottom and go up the stems, but they go through some pretty bad droughts and still have some pretty nice flowers on them. There are very few insect and disease problems on these as well, so I mean they're pretty much foolproof for most people to grow. So why do you want to grow sunflowers? Obviously looks matter. They're beautiful. They come in all sizes and most colors. There's lots of new colors out on the market there now, and we'll talk about some of those in a minute. They can give you whatever look you want. They also are great cut flowers. They last a long time indoors. They're good food. The seeds are good to eat, and they're nutritious for us and the wildlife. Actually, also, if you've ever had the sprouts from sunflowers, they are really good if you like sprouts. Sunflowers, to me, are one of the best for eating that way. Also, some sunflowers produce tubers that you can eat, kind of like a potato. And then on the wildlife side, they also attract songbirds and butterflies, which is great for us as gardeners. We like to see the wildlife in our gardens, especially songbirds, butterflies, and all the pollinators. We want to be friendly to those. And not for the home gardener, but for cooking oil. There, you can buy sunflower oil. You'll see it at the grocery stores. It's very good, very nutritious, and it's really good for us as a cooking oil as well. So we'll talk about the oil here. It's considered a premium light color, mild flavor. It's low in saturated fat. It withstands high cooking temperatures, is what we usually look for in an oil. It's a great oil for home use, for frying, baking, and even as a salad oil, because it has that light flavor. It doesn't overpower anything and goes well making vinaigrettes and other things. It's extracted by smashing the seeds and collecting the oil. And this was interesting, I think, that the Native Americans actually did this as well to get the oil out of the sunflower seeds so they could use it for frying and things. The best sunflowers for oil extraction are these large black. They are about 40 to 50% by weight. So if you were to weigh that, 40 to 50% of those kernels there would be oil. The entire heads are processed to ensure maximum oil amount is extracted. And then there is a byproduct, which is what's left after the oil is extracted, and it's called sunflower seed cake or meal, and it's used in livestock feed. The seeds are very nutritious. They're good in monosaturated, unsaturated fats. They can lower your LDL or your bad cholesterol and increase your good or HDL cholesterol. They're also a good source of protein. 100 grams of seeds has 21 grams of protein, or 36% of your recommended daily allowance. They're also good in antioxidants that will help remove harmful chemicals from the body and the liver. So you can see they're good for the wildlife. They're also good for us. They're also rich in vitamin E, about 234% of your RDA in 100 gram servings. Vitamin E, which helps your cell membranes, your mucous membranes, and it protects your skin. It's also a great source of vitamin B complex, such as niacin, folic acid, thiamine, vitamin B6, and riboflavin. Also a good source of calcium, iron, manganese, zinc, magnesium, selenium, and copper. So as far as the sunflowers you're going to take home for beauty, you're going to get seeds of the following. And you can see there I have a link there to Johnny's Seeds. That's where all the seeds came from. It's also where most of the pictures came from for the ones that you're going to actually get to take home. So the first one you're going to take home is called Red Hedge. It's the darkest red sunflower. It has long lasting blooms and a wild look. You can see there the stems are even kind of purple, and the little veins and the leaves are even purple. This one has smaller flowers, only 4 to 5 inches wide, but the stems are quite long off the plant, 25 to 36 inches, which is good for if you wanted to make a cut flower out of some of these. The plant grows about 48 to 58 inches tall, and this one is pollenless, which is not good for our pollinators, but it makes it good for a cut flower. If you've ever cut sunflowers and brought them indoors, a lot of times they can drop pollen on your furniture. Well, this one doesn't produce pollen, so you don't get that pollen everywhere if you bring it indoors. Also, these plants branch a lot, which gives you a lot more flowers. Then we have Pro Cut White Light. This is another new variety. It's a good one for, it has a really strong stem. It comes in a pale yellow, or I like to call that more of a butter color. It's really nice that way. Single stem plants, though, have tall, strong stems and about 4 to 6 inches flowers. This one is also pollenless. So if you want to cut this one, you can bring it indoors. And if you've not cut sunflowers before and brought them indoors, they last quite a while indoors. And this one grows about 60 to 72 inches tall. Next, we have Double Quick Orange, and you can see it's a fully double there. They're calling it orange, but to me it's still more of a yellow. But this is also a single stem, fully double sunflower. Grows about 48 to 60 inches tall, and the flower is about 4 to 5 inches wide. Florenza is another new one with the patterns that they've bred into these. Some of these almost are starting to look like large zinnias at this point. This one has excellent stem quality for cutting flowers, and you can see there's not very many leaves on those stems. They're really far apart, so which makes it another good one for cut flowers. This one, the heads stand up; they don't droop like some of the other ones do whenever they start to produce seed. Plants have relatively small, few leaves again. Gives it a neat appearance when cutting. This one does produce pollen, so keep that in mind if you're going to bring it indoors. If you have dark furniture, you'll really see it. This one also branches a lot, which gives you a lot more flowers, and it grows 45 to 55 inches tall. Next, we have Lemonade, which is also a double, but it still has a little hole in the middle of the flower there. You can see because those flowers are not opened inside that head at all at one time. This is a robust plant. It's fully double. It's bright lemon yellow blooms, very similar to Goldie Double, which was the one that this one kind of replaced. The branching plants have 18 to 24 inch long stems. Produces blooms about 5 to 7 inches across. It's a really nice one. It produces minimum pollen, and even if it didn't, it wouldn't drop as much because it doesn't have it has all those petals in the center where the pollen would have been dropping from. This one grows about 60 to 72 inches tall. Next, we have Ring of Fire. You can see this one almost looks like a Rudbeckia. It's a good one for the fall. It has the color of fall in it. Blooms about 5 to 6 inches across. Has very tight spacing. Makes them a little smaller. Stem length is 16 to 34 inches tall. This one is day length neutral, which means it's going to bloom pretty quickly whether you're in fall or not. So that's why it's a good one for fall. Minimum branching though. This one is an All-America Selections winner, which if you're not familiar with them, they trial plants all over the country, and then the plants that do well all over the country is who gets the All-America Selection winner. This one also is a little bit different, and it's going to lead us into what we're going to talk about next. This one has edible flowers. Most of them are, all of them are edible, but this one is edible in a way that's actually eatable. Some of you all are familiar with my talks. I'll talk about that all the time. But anyway, the flower buds can be fried, and the petals used as the garnish in your salads and desserts. The flavor is said to be bittersweet. I've never eaten them. I may try them this summer. We'll see. But the flower buds, so while they're still tight, is whenever they're going to fry these, not when they're open. So that led us into sunflowers for food, not just beauty. So you can eat all types of sunflower seeds, but generally the hybrid varieties with the larger seeds are bred for eating are going to be the best ones for you to eat. This is a nice picture of Mammoth Giant there, which produces a huge flower and a huge seed head, and you can see all those seeds it produces. It's actually too big really for commercial production, but it's really neat to have in the garden. And you can also see how that head droops over as it starts to fill with seeds, kind of mentioned those earlier with the smaller varieties that don't droop, which are bred more for cut flowers. So here we have Royal Hybrid sunflower. This is one you're going to get seeds to take home as well. It's a high yielding early sunflower. It has the delicious gray striped seeds. It was grown to be eaten by us and for birds, so both of us will be happy with these. It's a single stem slash bloom plant, 7 feet in height, and the flowers usually are at 8 inches wide. This is a traditional tall hybrid variety with large seeds, which is what we want. If we're going to eat these, we want a larger kernel inside. This one also has good standability. And you want to, if you plant several of these, you want to space them 8 to 12 inches apart in rows 18 to 36 inches apart. So if you grow these, any of them, if you can eat the seeds. But if you grow them to eat the seeds, you want to know how to roast them. First, you want to preheat your oven to 300 degrees. You want to spread your sunflower seeds in a single layer on a baking sheet. Be sure to remove any debris before roasting. Now these are going to be shelled, so you're going to have already taken them out of the shell, and you're just going to have the kernel at this point. You're going to place the sheet in the oven and bake for 30 minutes. You do want to stir your seeds every 10 minutes to keep them rotated where you don't get some that burn. And then check to see if they are crispy after about 30 minutes. If not, then you can bake an additional 10 minutes. Then you want to remove them from the oven. At this point, you're going to pour 1 to 2 teaspoons of olive oil, sunflower, or melted butter. May I add, melted butter is going to taste the best on these per cup of seed over the batch. Do this only if you're going to eat them within the next few days, because some of the oil or butter can go rancid tasting. So otherwise, if you don't want to get them soggy or with that, you would just wait. So you're going to season with salt and pepper and other spices to taste, however you like. Stir it up. And you can store these in an airtight container in the fridge. Then we have roasting unshelled seeds. You want to bring 2 quarts of water to a boil, add about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of salt, add the sunflower seeds, and then turn the heat to low. And then you're going to simmer the seeds for about 2 hours, drain the seeds, then spread those to dry on a paper towel. Spread the seeds on a baking dish after that and bake 10 to 15 minutes until they crisp up at about 400 degrees. And then you can season with oil or seasoning as you did the other seeds. Next, we have sunflower as a perennial. There are numerous perennials in the sunflower family, especially asters, which are native. They've been hybridized a lot as well, and you get a lot of colors out of those. And the great thing about the asters, even though I have a whole PowerPoint on it, we're just touching on these here because they're in that family, is they are a late season color for us, and they're also a late season pollen and nectar source for our pollinators before the winter sets in. So the first perennial we're going to talk about is the Maximilian sunflower. This is the one you're going to take home, so we're going to talk about this one. This one is a tough Kentucky native perennial, and it will spread if you let it seed. It's late blooming, usually from September, with 3-inch flowers, the length of the stems, which I'll show you a picture in a minute how they look. It's a great cut flower as well. Plant grows anywhere from 4 to 8 feet tall. It does like average soil with medium moisture. Loves full sun, like most sunflowers. It's a good source for food source for your birds and your butterflies as well. And it's great planted at the back of the border or against the fence or wall. It gives you really good late season color. You can pre-treat the seeds for best germination. For me though, they've germinated quite readily. I've not really needed to soak those or anything. They germinate quite well. So here's a picture of the Maximilian sunflower, and you can see they go 4 to 8 feet tall, and they have flowers all the way up and down the stems. And This is a really bright, almost fluorescent yellow color on the Maximilian sunflower. We also have sunflowers as perennial and food, which we have the Jerusalem artichoke or sunchoke. It's called Helianthus tuberosus. This perennial is native as well, and you'll see this a lot of times in moist areas next to riverbanks in full sun or sides of the roads and ditches, and it grows quite large as well. These sunchokes, as they're called, are eaten by the Native Americans for thousands of years. They called them sun roots, which they were a sunflower. Makes sense they'd call them sun roots because that's what they were. Tall plant with annual stems, and it dies to the ground each year. The underground stems swell and they form these tubers, which is the energy for that plant to regrow the next year. But you can harvest those tubers and eat those as well. The tumors form very late in the season as the foliage is ceasing to grow after flowering, so that what that plant is doing is sending all that energy and those stems back down to the root system. Tubers come in red, white, and yellow. The chokes have a sweet, nutty flavor, crunchy and watery, kind of like a water chestnut, if you're familiar with those, when they're raw, and they can be peeled and steamed or boiled like potatoes or even fried. They are low to no starch, which is good if you've got some problems with diabetes or something like that. High in iron and food value of a potato. It's good for low starch / diabetic diets, which I just mentioned. And it's thought to be an adaptogen, meaning it helps equalize alkalinity and acidity in the blood. If you want to plant sunchokes, you're going to plant those in a hill similar to potatoes, about 3 to 4 inches deep. You can fertilize them with a multi-purpose like a 10-10-10 or some compost. You want to space the plants about 20 to 24 inches apart, in rows 36 inches apart, and you want to plant them in spring or fall. It's whenever you can get those sunchokes sent to you. You could go find some of those and dig those this fall and then plant those back in your garden if you wanted to do the wild ones. They are drought tolerant but thrives with adequate summer moisture. I see these most often in kind of not wet areas but moist areas next to a riverbank or a ditch area or some kind of area that stays moist during the summer. You can cover their hill in winter with straw and dig the tubers as needed. The taste does get better as the winter goes on, which those sugars develop in there. And then the one caution is missed tubers will grow readily. These can become weedy if you've missed a bunch of those, especially if you put them out in your vegetable garden and they get tilled and scattered, then they can spread quite readily. I like to keep these in an area where that's not going to happen. It's more of a perennial bed then, and I just dig the ones that I want. Some common varieties is Stampede, which is a roundish, knobby 2-inch to 4-inch tuber there. It's a classic sunchoke. You can see the classic flower. It looks a lot like the Maximilian sunflower flower does. This one's early maturing and early flowering. It gets about 6 to 8 feet tall. Most of these do grow quite tall, so you need to give them some room for their height. And this one is the one that has some of the best yields for our area, so that's probably going to be a good one for you to select from. Another one is, I'm not sure how to say that, but we're going to say fusa. Long carrot-like tubers, you can see those there, almost like a little thin sweet potato. These plants grow 6 to 9 feet tall, so they get quite large. And these probably are going to need something to lean on because when they flower, they do start to lean and fall over. It holds its green on into October, and it's a little bit frost tolerant, which is good if we have an early frost. It's very late flowering and maturing. The late flowering can even be added to the back of a perennial bed or somewhere, and you get the late color that way. Also, this white flash, has white flash with a tan yellow skin. Still, if you look at that picture, it looks like mini sweet potatoes. We also had a red fasu, which grows 8 to 10 feet tall, has large tubers with this nice red coloring. This one is the sweetest of the varieties that I've talked about. It can grow up to 8 inches long, so it can be quite large. And this one has a little better flavor raw because again it has more natural sweetness that the others may not have. And then we come to the sprouts. If you want to eat sunflower sprouts, you can do that. And I had these one time in Wisconsin at an urban farming conference. They are very tasty. As far as sprouts goes, they are the most delicious to me. These are also easy to do at home, and you know when you grow them at home what's been done to them and what's been applied. So they're easy and quick to germinate. You just put a bunch of seeds in a flat with a little soil over them, and then you wait till they germinate there, and you can see you want to harvest them right at that stage in that picture there before they've grown any true leaves. You may have to pick off the hulls there and then rinse the little sprouts off and eat those in a salad. They're very nutritious. Actually, the sprouting process increases the available nutrients and amounts, and during germination, all the nutrients in the plant increases by 300 to 1200%. So an example of that would be the vitamin A increases to 50,000 units. So this is a quick rundown on how to sprout your sunflowers. I kind of mentioned that a minute ago, but first you want to soak 4 cups of unhulled sunflowers for about 8 to 12 hours. Then you can scatter those on a layer, in one thick layer I should say, and press them down firmly on the soil with your hands. Then sprinkle the box with water and cover it with a newspaper. Water the seeds thoroughly through the newspaper once a day until the growing sprouts start pushing the paper up, which should take about 2 to 4 days depending on the temperature. And then depending on the, then remove the newsprint and continue to give the seedlings a drink daily, picking the hulls off the leaves only after the small plants begin to stand up. You can wait and do that at harvest time if you wish. Then you can reap your harvest with scissors when the first 2 leaves open. Again, no need to, don't let them grow the first true leaves. You just want to eat the seed leaves. So that's all you got to do, and there's a little link there if you want more to do with that from Mother Earth News. I know that was a quick PowerPoint, a quick run through on sunflowers, but really they don't need anything but full sun, well-drained soil, and a little bit of fertilizer. Other than that, you can grow sunflowers anywhere in your yard as long as you meet those requirements. If anybody's got any questions, they can give me a call here at the office. You can also Facebook message me. You can email me, however you like. This PowerPoint will be loaded up onto our Facebook page and also the YouTube channel. And the seeds are not here yet. They should be in late next week. The hostas should be in this probably tomorrow or Monday. We'll do one call so that you know when those things are here so you can come and pick those up. So if anybody's got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a happy garden.